And welcome back, rugby fans, to Rugby411. As always, I'm your host. My name is Joshua Shibata, and this is our Week 17 preview of the 2024 MLR season, the penultimate week of the season. It is exciting because we still have two playoff spots left to determine the Eastern Conference. There's still plenty to play for, a lot of important games, and again, you can watch almost every game live and on demand on the Rugby Network, an absolutely free app. Highly recommend it. If you're trying to catch up on the MLR season, if you missed anything, like I have a couple games I need to catch up on, you can watch all the rest of the games of the 2024 season. Of course, when the playoffs get to start in July, you can watch them on the Rugby Network as well. There is one game, and it's basically the very first game, the Free Jacks NOLA Gold game, that will only be on Fox Sports 2 live. So if you want to watch it then, otherwise you have to wait 24 hours. It will then be re-uploaded on the Rugby Network. But again, highly recommend you check out the Rugby Network. It's an absolutely free app. I don't know why you'd want to miss that. 6 games this weekend. Everybody is playing. Oddly enough, 5 games stacked on Saturday. It is a stacked Saturday of rugby. 1 game on Sunday. Let's go over this. Saturday, June 22nd, we kick off 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Probably the game of the week. The top 2 spots in the Eastern Conference playing against each other. Your reigning defending MLR champion, the New England Free Jacks, going over to the gold mine to take on the surprisingly hot NOLA Gold. This game will be on Fox Sports 2, as I mentioned before. In this series, New England is up 6 wins to 3 against NOLA. Interestingly enough, all 3 of NOLA's wins were basically when this rivalry first started. Since then, it's been non-stop New England 6 wins in a row. But, interestingly enough, as I mentioned before, NOLA Gold pretty hot. 5 out of the last 6 games are wins. New England, 4 out of the last 6 are wins. So technically, NOLA kind of ahead. New England, last time that they faced off against each other, New England won 27-21. It was a close game. And it's going to be interesting with this one because technically both teams have solidified themselves into the Eastern Conference playoffs. Both teams technically, I feel, pretty much have secured that 1 and 2 spot. I don't know if NOLA is going to field a full team, as in all their starters, rather than maybe rest a couple of their starters to get prepared for the playoffs. New England, I feel, might do that, so things kind of change a little bit. But I still feel New England will walk away with the victory here, even though they're playing at the gold mine. Moving on, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. These next 2 games, pretty important in the Eastern Conference playoff scenario. 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Chicago Hounds going over to Charlotte to take on Anthem Rugby Carolina. This game is basically if Chicago wins, they're in. If they tie, they're in as well. So if they have 2 losing bonus points, they're in. Basically, Chicago just needs to score points in order to win this game, to get into the playoffs. And they kind of lucked out. Game to play against is the winless Anthem Rugby. Last time these 2 teams played, Chicago destroyed Anthem 59-26. I don't think there's any more to say, but, Chicago will probably get their second win under new interim head coach Rob Weber, and they will solidify themselves in the Eastern Conference playoffs. 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the really important game where their playoff implications depend on who wins. Old Glory DC goes over to Miami at Chase Stadium to take on the Miami Sharks, who are on the verge of making the playoffs in their first year in Major League Rugby. Now, again, Miami has their destiny in their hands. If you've seen my prior video, Miami plays both teams that are ahead of them in the Eastern Conference. They're playing Old Glory, and then the next week, the last week of the season, they will play Chicago. Regardless if Chicago wins or not, if Miami is able to beat Old Glory, Miami can still make it into the playoffs, but then Miami has to beat Chicago. Otherwise, if Miami loses to Old Glory, Miami is out. Old Glory and Chicago are both in the playoffs. If Old Glory loses, Old Glory technically is still in, but Miami has to lose against Chicago. So, again, A very, very important game. This game will also be streamed live on the Major League Rugby YouTube network. Interestingly enough, the last two games that Major League Rugby will be streaming live will be this one and then next week's game between Miami and Chicago, because I think they knew that there's a lot of playoff implications with both of those games. Now, last time Old Glory and Miami played were early in the season. Old Glory barely snuck by Miami 13-10, and that was back at Segra Field with Old Glory, Germantown Soccer Metroplex at Old Glory's home pitch. I feel with all the playoff implications, and granted, Old Glory played really, really tough rugby against New England. I think Miami's going to win this one. I really do. I think Miami will win this, keeping their playoff hopes alive. And now let's go over the remaining week games of the weekend. And we are again in Saturday, 2 games at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time involving all Western Conference teams. The Dallas Jackals, who just earned their playoff spot last week, taking on the Utah Warriors, who are eliminated by playoff contention at Zion Stadium. Utah is struggling. They are on a 6-game losing streak, though their last game against the New England Patriots was very, very impressive. Dallas has only won 2 of 6, but they've made the playoffs, so they are in. They are good. Dallas does still have some stuff to play for. If they can continue winning, they do have a possibility of moving from the number 4 spot to the number 3 spot. The 1 and 2 spot are pretty much secure. So Dallas does have to play. You know, it kind of makes a difference between either facing Seattle or Houston. Both teams are pretty tough, but that does make a difference in their rivalry. Utah is 4 wins over Dallas's 1. Dallas won the first game in their rivalry just this season, 22-20, barely winning. I feel, originally I had Dallas winning this game, but I'm going to stick with Dallas, okay? I was going to change to Utah, but really, Utah doesn't really have a lot to play for. Granted, playing in Zion Stadium, Utah plays like a completely different team, but I think Dallas does want to continue their momentum into the playoffs, because they will be being the underdogs in the Western Conference, being the 4th team in. So I don't think that they can take the foot off the pedal, and they got to keep going and they got to keep winning. Moving on, going now to Starfire Stadium, where RFCLA, also eliminated from the playoffs, takes on the Seattle Seawolves. Oddly enough, both teams are only 3 wins out of the last 6 games. Seattle has been kind of struggling a little bit going into the playoffs, but we've seen Seattle do that before, and then once they make it to the playoffs, they are a completely different team. RFCLA lost to Seattle the first time they played, 5-36. As much as I am an LA fan, I'll always be an LA fan. I am going to have to say Seattle will win this one pretty decisively. Now watch. LA ends up winning this game in a complete upset. Again, Seattle really doesn't have anything to play for. They are securely in that 2nd place team. Houston cannot move out of that 1st place spot. So Seattle can't go any higher. So I kind of don't think Seattle's going to play a lot of their star players. LA has nothing to play for. So, hey, they can easily show up or not. Then our last game, Sunday, a really big game, June 23rd, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Houston SaberCats, the number 1 team in the league, taking on the San Diego Legion at Snapdragon Stadium. Houston again on an 8-game win streak. They are pretty damn dominant, though in the rivalry, San Diego's up 6 to Houston's 4. The last time though Houston won 33-0, blanking San Diego. A very impressive feat. I don't think that's going to change. Granted, I don't think San Diego is going to play out their starters. They have, again, nothing to play it for. They are going to be the number 1 seed. San Diego does have the ability of sliding down to 4. They need to at least win 1 game, which is this game, in order to secure their spot in number 3. But I think that's going to be a tall task to ask for. I think Houston is going to win this one pretty decisively as well. So that again is our games of the weekend. Again, if you're my Super Brew, don't forget, turn in your picks, because there is a lot of play for as that as well. And again, thank you for watching my video, and I'll see you on the pitch.